If you're ever on a beach past midnight and you see a child coming out of the ocean, do not go near them, because sometimes what you think is a child runs faster than anything human. In June of 2022, around 12:30 in the morning, two friends were celebrating a buddy's birthday on ECR Beach in India. The party was still going strong behind them, but after midnight, the two slipped away from the crowd to walk closer to the water and cool off. The beach was quiet, dark, just the sound of waves and a warm ocean breeze. And then they saw it. As they were walking, both of them noticed a small figure emerging from the water about 25 meters to the left, far enough to not see details, but close enough to recognize a shape. It looked like a child, small, slight frame, stepping out of the surf. The two friends looked around, expecting to see a family member or somebody nearby. Nobody. No parents, no voices, just this one small figure in the dark. The friends kept walking towards the shoreline, and now this child was standing directly to their left, just looking around, looking confused. Head turning left, then right, as if they were lost. The friends glanced at each other. Something felt off, but their first thought wasn't paranormal, it was concern. "Let's go check if someone needs help," one of them said. So they started walking towards the figure. At this exact moment, everything flips. The figure, this small child standing in the dark, suddenly bolts in the opposite direction. But the speed was not human. The friends described it as the fastest they had ever seen anything move. Not a sprint, not a panicked run, but something unnatural. It covered an impossible distance in seconds, and then vanished straight into the darkness beyond the shore. No stumble, no splash, no silhouette, just gone. The two friends stopped dead in their tracks, completely shocked. Neither spoke for several seconds. They both saw the same thing. They both knew that wasn't normal, and without even discussing it, they turned and ran back to the party. They told a few friends what happened, and they followed them back to the shoreline with flashlights. But the beach was of course empty. Whatever they saw left no trace. To this day, they still have no explanation for what they saw. It wasn't a child, it wasn't a person, and nothing they know can move like that, especially coming out of the ocean.
If two people experience the same missing time, but years later, one of them remembers nothing, and the other remembers everything, including the 3 abductions that happened afterward, then one of them is lying, or something else is choosing what each of them gets to remember. When my mother was a teenager, she was spending the evening with her friend. We'll call her Lisa. The two of them climbed onto the roof of Lisa's house to talk, watch the stars, and just hang out like normal teenagers. But at some point in the night, something appeared in the sky. A bright, unmoving light. Too big for a star, too still for a plane. The girls stared at it. And then they blinked. The light was gone. The sky was different, and the air felt colder. They thought maybe 15 minutes had passed. Instead, 3 hours were missing. Neither girl remembered anything after the light. When my mum tried to ask Lisa what had happened, Lisa's answers were clipped and terrified. I don't know. Just drop it. Don't ask. She wanted nothing to do with the subject. And eventually, my mum stopped asking. A few months later, she moved away. They lost contact for nearly a decade. And when she finally saw Lisa again, she immediately knew something was off. Lisa didn't act scared anymore. She didn't act disturbed or traumatized. She acted peaceful, detached from normal emotions, almost too content. They caught up, talked about life, and then Lisa brought up the incident on the roof. My mum told her she still didn't remember anything, but Lisa did. Lisa remembered everything. Lisa explained that at first her memories were broken in pieces, flashes, feelings, fragments. But over the years, the pieces came back, and with them came the understanding that the rooftop encounter was only her first abduction. She told my mum she had been taken 3 more times. Each time, she remembered everything. At first, they paralyzed her and performed invasive procedures, experiments she couldn't move against. But as years went on, things changed. They stopped probing her. They began speaking to her. Not in English, not in any language humans know, yet somehow, she understood every word. They told Lisa things about space, about the earth, about humanity. And then they told her something personal. They predicted, years before it happened, that Lisa would become pregnant in a very specific year, and that the baby would be stillborn. They also told her she would never be able to have children again. And when that awful prediction came true, Lisa said they apologized. They said they tried to prevent it, but they couldn't. Then Lisa told my mum something that nearly stopped her heart. They had abducted her too. Not just that night on the roof, another time. My mum has no memory of it, none. But she does have reoccurring nightmares. Dreams of being taken, frozen, examined, surrounded by light. She insists they're just nightmares, but they're always the same. Lisa explained that each time she met with them, she understood more of what she calls the truth. When my mum asked what the truth actually was, Lisa just smiled and said, "You'll know eventually." And then, almost whispering, "Once you understand the truth, everything becomes wonderful." It wasn't obsession. It wasn't paranoia. Lisa lived a normal life. No rambling theories, no alien shrines, no fixation. She brought it up only when asked, as if it were just another part of her existence. A quiet one, a private one she didn't fear anymore. Something happened on that rooftop. Something that permanently linked 2 teenage girls in the way only one of them was allowed to remember. One of them forgot everything. One of them remembered everything.
If your car shuts down in the middle of a rural highway and the next thing you remember is waking up 3 hours later in the middle of a cornfield half a mile from where your car is, with no memory of how you got there, you weren't just sleeping. Something or someone put you there. It was a normal Friday night Thomas was driving home from Indiana University, a 2-hour trip he'd made hundreds of times before. He left Bloomington around 10 p.m. At 10:53 p.m., on a quiet, rural stretch of the highway, he noticed something behind him. Flashing lights. They looked like police. He sighed, thinking he was about to get pulled over. So he turned onto the next empty country road. Thomas stopped, reaching for the glove box, and prepared his registration and proof of insurance. And then the lights behind him just vanished. No car passed, no engine sounds, nothing. The road behind him was empty. And that's when everything started to go wrong. At 10:56 p.m., the electronics in his car went haywire. The radio began flipping through stations on its own. The volume surged, then dropped to silence, then blasted again. The dome light flickered, the headlights cut out, came back on, then dimmed. It was like the entire car was losing its mind. Thomas assumed it was a failing battery or a short in the wiring. So he leaned down to pop the hood, and that's the last thing he remembered. He opens his eyes. He was lying on his back, staring at the clearest, brightest night sky he had ever seen. He sat up, and his heart nearly stopped. He was in the middle of a field, surrounded by dead corn stalks from a recent harvest. No roads nearby, no lights or houses, and no car. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't dreaming. He was gone. Moved, placed, dumped half a mile from the nearest road. Panicking, he headed towards the faint headlights he could see far off, maybe half a mile away. When he reached the intersection, he looked at the signs. 350 north and 50 west. He knew these roads. He had parked nowhere near them. Yet somehow, this is where he woke up. He made the half-mile walk in maybe 10 or 15 minutes. When he finally reached his car, it was sitting exactly where he left it. Dark, dead, and silent. The battery was drained, and then he saw the time on his phone. 2:17 a.m. He had been gone for over 3 hours. He sat in the driver's seat, stunned beyond words. What had happened to him? Where did he go? Why couldn't he remember anything between 10:56 p.m. and waking up on that field? After half an hour of trying and failing to make sense of it, he called AAA. It took an hour for them to reach Thomas. He sat there the entire time, staring out at the dark fields around him. He thought about the flashing lights, the electronics going crazy, waking up under the stars. None of it made sense, and none of it fit within the 3 missing hours. To this day, Thomas has no explanation. He's only told one person, his uncle, because he knows how it sounds. Too similar to stories people make fun of, and too close to the cliches everyone dismisses. But he knows this: he didn't fall asleep, he didn't wander off, he didn't hallucinate. He was placed in that field, and whoever or whatever put him there didn't want him to remember how.